There are some coaching decisions that make you genuinely scratch your head and wonder what the heck they were thinking. Because there's patience, and then there's delusion. Hugh Jackson getting to coach a third season with the Cleveland Browns after going 1-31 over his first 2 years, with an 0-16 season in 2017. Harlan Savare getting a 5-year contract extension with the San Diego Chargers in the middle of the 1972 season, despite having a 2-5-1 record in his first season as the coach. Ali Sherman getting a 10-year contract extension with the New York Giants in 1965, after the Giants won 2 games the year before and were quite literally the worst team in football. And this man right here is up there with one of the strangest ones of the bunch. This man you've been watching this entire time is Buffalo Bills head coach Hank Bullough. As in, the answer to the trivia question, who was the coach of the Bills before Marv Levy got there? It's not like Levy was Jimmy Johnson replacing Tom Landry or Mike Tomlin replacing Bill Cowher. The bar was on the ground when Levy got there because Bullough was that bad. After the 1985 season, where Bullough took over as the interim, following the mid-season firing of Case Stevenson, another man who had no business getting another year, the Bills decided, for some reason, to keep him on as the full-time coach in 1986, despite the fact that, as the interim, the Bills went 2-10 and finished the season with the worst record in football. You know what's bad when after the season, one player sat on the decision to retain Bullough in 1986? Some guys are happy with him, some guys aren't. If we were winning, everybody would be happy. Seems like everybody was happy with the man and was on board with bringing him back. That does not sound like dysfunction in the slightest bit. What followed was a predictably disastrous 1986 campaign that, in theory, should have been better, seeing as they had an actual quarterback with Jim Kelly, the team's first-round pick in 1983, finally joining the club after the United States Football League collapsed. However, it was anything but smooth sailing for the Bills under Bullough in 1986, as many people did not think he deserved another season, and predictably, he did not coach well with his extra opportunity. Over the first 9 games of the season, Bullough and the Bills went 2-7, leading to Bullough getting fired for Marv Levy, who gave the Bills some confidence for the first time since the mid-1980s. Basically, the mid-80s Bills were the equivalent of watching the late 2000s St. Louis Rams under Steve Spagnuolo and whatnot. And not only was Hank Bullough a really bad coach, as he had a lifetime record of 4-18 in his 22 games as the man in charge, which is pretty bad if you couldn't tell, but the man was also a psychopath. Genuinely, the man was off his rocker. And if you want a prime example of that, and want to see just how unqualified he was to be the man in charge of anything, let alone a professional football team, look no further than what happened during Week 2 of the 1986 season, when the Buffalo Bills played the Cincinnati Bengals, and he accused the Bengals of cheating and accused a reporter of being a spy and an imposter among us in one of the dumbest controversies you've likely never heard of before that deserves a deep dive 40 years later. Because this is the story behind Hank Bullough and the spy who caused the Bills to lose a game, allegedly. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff and want to learn more, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the man who spent more time on conspiracy theories than he did on winning football games. Before I talk about the actual incident in question and what exactly went down, because you're not going to believe how stupid Hank Bullough was throughout this entire ordeal, we need some context to understand the importance of the game at hand, as well as how the game went. It's September 14th, 1986. It's Week 2 of a brand new NFL season, and we find ourselves at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati for this AFC battle between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. For both of these teams, this game, even though it's early on, feels like a must-win. Cincinnati lost their opening game of the season to the Kansas City Chiefs, while Buffalo lost their opening game to the New York Jets. Whoever loses this game would start the season off with an 0-2 record, which is a big hole to overcome. The previous year, in 1985, of the 10 teams to make the playoffs, none of them started off with an 0-2 record, including Buffalo and Cincinnati. And only once in the previous 3 seasons, from 1983 to 85, did a team start 0-2 and make it to the playoffs. Obviously, your season isn't over after 2 weeks, but if you lose this game, you've got an uphill battle on your hands the rest of the way, and don't have a ton of room for error. And during this game, in the quest to avoid an 0-2 start, it was the Bengals who were successful, as they took it by a final score of 36-33 in overtime. This was a game where the Bills had no business losing. They led it 33-23 with 5 minutes left, and completely collapsed down the stretch. Even when they got the ball in overtime to start off, Jim Kelly threw an interception on the first play to get the Bengals in field goal range, basically ending it right then and there. However, as you can tell with a scoreline like that, the big reason why the Bengals won this game was because of their offense. They put up 36 points. That's a lot. Boomer Esiason looked very comfortable back there, throwing for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Cincinnati did a great job on the ground, picking up 165 yards on 4.9 yards per carry. The Bengals had 405 yards of offense, rarely lost yards, and had their way with Buffalo's defense, especially in the second half. The Bengals finished that 1986 season with the 3rd best offense in football, and this felt like their breakout game, as this great offensive performance got them back to 500. And one of the reasons why the Bengals won this game and looked good offensively, it was because they cheated and knew exactly what was coming. Notice how during this entire game, the Bengals had a clean pocket and were winning on the offensive line. Outside of one play, they completely neutralized Bruce Smith, which was not easy to do. Smith would end his career as one of the greatest players in NFL history, as the first overall pick at the 1985 NFL Draft, finished his career with 200 sacks, an NFL record, including 13 seasons with double-digit sacks, 11 Pro Bowls, 8 All-Pro appearances, and multiple appearances on the All-Decade team in both the 1980s and the 1990s. By the second year of his career, it was very clear that Smith was a force to be reckoned with and was one of the best pass rushers in the sport. He ended that sophomore season of his with 15 sacks, which was the 5th most in football. Because of this, many teams began double-teaming him, assigning 2 defenders to him so that he would be neutralized. Opposing offensive lines weren't going to get Bruce Smith in a one-on-one spot, because a tackle unopposed on Smith would result in Smith winning 95 times out of 100. And with the Bills recognizing this, they installed plays during their practices in the build-up to the Bengals game where Smith would move around on the defensive line. There would be some times where he would line up on the left side, other times where he would line up inside, and other times where he would line up on the right side. By doing this, it was harder to double-team him because you had no idea where he was going to line up pre-snap. It was one more thing for the offensive line and the quarterback to worry about, because if you called a play to a particular side or called a certain protection to a particular side and Smith wasn't on that side, even though he was on the previous play, you had to recognize that and audible, or you were going to be completely and utterly screwed. However, the Bengals knew that the Bills were going to do this. And the reason why was because prior to the game, Mike Dodd, a reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer and later for USA Today, wrote a scouting report about the Bills, letting readers know what to expect and what matchups to look out for. In that report, when talking about the defense for the Bills, Dodd wrote, "On the line, and Bruce Smith is starting to play like the first pick of the draft. Teams are starting to double team him, and the Bills are countering by moving him around the line like the Jets did with Mark Gastineau last year. For context, Gastineau led the NFL in sacks in both 1983 and 1984, and finished his career as a 5-time Pro Bowler with over 100 sacks, who has a legitimate case for the Hall of Fame and would probably be in, if not for the bizarre ending to his career that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. This report by Dodd seems innocent enough. The Bills have a really good player in Bruce Smith, and they're moving him around the defensive line to reduce the number of double teams that he has to face. Well, let's just say that one man did not take too kindly to that report. Because Bills head coach Hank Bullough, once he found out that this was written in the Cincinnati Enquirer, lost his mind. The Bills had never run that play in a game before. The Bills had never worked on that before. They installed it for the first time during a closed practice just days before the game. And you're telling me that a reporter in Cincinnati spied on us, got the information, and put it in the paper, with the Bengal coaches being able to read that information before the game and adjust accordingly, thereby neutralizing Bruce Smith for the entire game and dominating on offense? And yeah, if that was true, that is a big no-no, and Bullough has every right to be upset. I can't blame him here. That's especially true because Mike Dodd, the man who wrote the story, used to work in Buffalo, so he had connections to reporters in Buffalo. Reporters are a team in the sporting industry. It's a very tight-knit circle where everyone knows everyone, and they'll contact others to help them write their stories and get more information about a specific team to help craft a narrative and educate their audience. If you reveal something that is confidential information and is not supposed to be revealed, there goes all of your connections, and there goes your ability to perform. No one likes a rat, and Mike Dodd was a rat who helped the Bengals win the game, according to Hank Bullough, because he got information from someone inside Buffalo and wrote about it, even though it was top secret, and no one outside of the organization should have known that was coming. It'd be like if I said that the Jaguars like to use the flea flicker on 2nd and 8, even though they had never done it before. The fact that I was writing publicly about top secret information and passing it on as fact is an easy way to get blackballed from the industry. It's something that you just don't do. And Bullough was furious. As he said, "We put that in during practice late last week as a surprise. I don't know who did it, but I'll tell you this. The guy probably can't sleep good at night. We have a fox in the henhouse." He even said that he almost threw up when he read the report because he had no idea how it leaked. Mike Dodd should not have published the story because it was confidential information, and obviously, the reporter should not have relayed that information to Dodd in the first place. The media caused the Bengals to make adjustments and caused the Bills to lose the game. And all of that would be incredibly juicy, if that was even remotely true. Because as it turns out, and as you might have figured out by now, Hank Bullough was an absolute moron. Turns out, yes, the Bills were practicing plays with Bruce Smith, lining up on different sides of the line. But they also ran those plays in the preseason, and they ran those plays in Week 1 against the Jets. It was not a surprise that the Bills were doing this with Bruce Smith, seeing as they had done it over the course of the entire season, both preseason and regular season. Said Dodd, "There's one thing you never do. When you're watching practice and there's a strategy move, you never write it, and you never share the information with a writer covering the opposing team. I've never done it, and I never would. I was under the impression this was something they showed in one of their previous games or scrimmages. Translation, we all abide by a code. I never break that code, and the Bills literally did this in previous games, which is what I was referring to here. I have no idea how the practices worked. It's like me writing about the Eagles, saying that in short yardage situations, they'll run the tush push." Dodd spoke with reporters before the game to exchange information, which again is common practice, and he denied helping the Bengals out, because that would just be insane. As Dodd said, in general, the information I used for that report is based on what the opposing team has shown in games up to that point. Someone had mentioned to me that against the Jets in Week 1, Smith had slid inside on certain passing situations. And that's what I was referring to. I resent the implication I would help a team win or hurt a team. I'm not in the business of helping Cincinnati beat Buffalo or hurting Buffalo's chances. I'm in the business of informing the readers. So yeah, when you run a play in a regular season game and a reporter points that out, I'm not sure you can blame the reporter for that, seeing as this is publicly available information that we could have gotten ourselves with no special access whatsoever using our own 2 eyes. Making things even more insane was that Dodd spoke with some Bengal coaches afterward, and they had no idea what he was even talking about in terms of a newspaper report. Because who has time to read the paper when you've got a game to worry about? You want to get that noise out of your head. Bengal coaches had a feeling that the Bills were going to do what they did because they saw it on tape and saw them do it in Week 1. And the report by Dodd the day of the game did absolutely nothing for them. Which is why afterwards, this man right here, Hank Bullough, issued a retraction. Shocker, he was wrong and maybe overreacted a little bit. Just a touch. As Bullough said the following day, I'm kind of hot-headed at times when I read things. I've been thinking about it, and I don't think we have a spy in the media. At least, I hope we don't. I probably got a little huffy about it, but I do think I have a right to get huffy on that. I mean, it's sort of an apology, I suppose? Not really, half-hearted, but Bullough retracted his comments on Dodd and the reporter who gave the information to him once he realized after publicly calling everyone out that, oh yeah, I ran that play last week, and I've run that play all season. So maybe that's where they got it from. A lot of times, Occam's razor applies. Was it more likely that a Buffalo reporter wanted to sabotage the team's chances of winning because it made for better content? So he called up a Cincinnati reporter, told him about a secret play, made sure the reporter wrote about the play, got the Bengals to read the paper so they know that the play was a thing, in a throwaway sentence, mind you, and know how to stop it? Or did the Bills show that on tape last week and the Bengals were ready for it? The simplest explanation usually wins. It's no surprise why Bullough got fired mid-season with crap like this. Going on a witch hunt and going full emergency meeting in Among Us for no reason whatsoever as an explanation for why his team allowed 36 points in a game is not the smartest move. So in terms of lessons for coaches here, if you run a play in a game and the reporter reports about the play, they are doing their job. They are not doing anything illegal or banned or shady. If you run a play in a public game that we can see with our own eyes, and the reporter says that you ran that play, it is not some inside job or grand conspiracy. If I run the ball 14 times out of 15 on first down, and a reporter says that I like to favor the run on first down, I cannot get mad at that reporter for writing that without looking like a total moron. I don't think Hank Bullough got that memo. Because in 1986, no one circled around reporters for no reason whatsoever like the Buffalo Bills. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.